Okay, this is lecture number 3 about rhythm and meter. Our end goal is to recognize and notate music in simple and compound time. I guess the first thing to understand is that music is organized by rhythm. It's organized by pitch, right? High and low. It's also organized by rhythm. And when I say that, I mean that much of the music that we, interact with in life has a pulse to it, has some sort of a steady pulse that takes place, right? And what meter does and what rhythm does is it organizes music into that pulse structure in a way, right? So whatever those pulses are, meter and the duration of the notes will be working with that sort of pulse structure. This is again as a grid, right? We know that the notes, the notes placed in the grid will tell us about pitch, right? How high or how low, but they also will convey to us duration, how long those notes are held out in time, how many pulses those notes may happen for or may take up, right? There are basically two types of meters or times, right, in the music for this class. And the first is called simple time, simple meter, and then we have compound meter. So either simple or compound. In simple meter, whatever that pulse is divided into two equal rhythmic parts. So we have, if this is our pulse, divided into two, subdivided into two. So it's 1 and 2 and, or 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. That's simple time. In compound time, the pulse is divided into three equal subdivisions, right? So you'd have 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. That's the basic difference between compound and simple, is that whatever that pulse note is divided into two for simple time and divided into three for compound time. In simple time, there's a great page in the book that shows sort of really quickly on one page, it shows you what all these meters, shows simple meter. You see the differences in the possibilities there, right? That there's always a fraction. The top number of the fraction tells you how many pulses there are per measure. And the bottom number of the fraction tells us what kind of note gets one of those pulses, okay? And there's some ideas for simple meter. Again, it's a fraction, like I just mentioned. And a very common one is, like you might see 2, 4, right? Which means that now that I'm going to organize this grid with vertical lines now, okay, measure lines. So if I put a measure, I'm gonna have two pulses and then a measure line here. And this tells me that there are two pulses in every measure and that the quarter note, the 4 represents the quarter note gets each pulse. So one full measure of 2 4 would look like that. Two of those in each measure, okay? If I change this to 3 4, which is pretty common, all right? Now I'd have to add a quarter note, right? If I change it to 4 4, which is a very common meter, there'd be 4 of them in each bar, okay? And the bottom one can change as well. It could be 4 2, right? Which means now I have to have 4 half notes in each measure. Very, very strange, very odd. You wouldn't see that very often, right? You might see 4 8, right? If I make that into an 8, that means I have 4 8 notes per measure, okay? The single flag note. Again, the pulse is always divided up into two, but that's what that might look like, right? You could have 3 2. There's also a possibility, right? For simple time, that means there's 3 pulses per measure, but there are 3 half notes, right? So you see how that kind of goes, right? In simple time, by the way, the pulse note will always be just a regular note. Quarter note, eighth note, 16th note, half note, whole note. There's no dots added to it. It's just a regular note, okay? In compound time, don't forget that we had our notes divided up into our pulses divided up into 3 parts. So that means we need a dotted note to be our pulse note. So basically a dotted quarter note, which actually is 3 8 notes, correct? Right? Our pulse is 1 and or 1 2 3 1 2 3, right? So that now our pulse note must be a dotted note to make that work, okay? very common in the time signature will look something like this, right? It'll have 3 eighth notes per pulse, right? So that is a measure of 3/8 right there. Bup, bup, bup. Or it simply is a dotted corner note, ba, right? But it's divided into 3 because of that dot that's there, okay? We may change the top note to 6. Now we have, it'd look like this possibly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It does mean that there are 6 eighth notes per measure in 6/8, okay? Compound time. Now notice that the beam, what the beam looks like in this meter. And like I said, I think I said this before, maybe I didn't, but the beam is used to visually show you the pulse divisions. So you can see because of that beam, that's the end of a pulse right there. Our pulses are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, okay? Now here's something that's a little bit confusing about compound time. In simple time, you're in 4/4. Your pulse is there are 4 pulses in each measure, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 quarter notes. In 6/8 time, there are 6 eighth notes in this, in a measure here, but the pulse actually is the dotted note. So we don't count this. We don't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only, the dotted note, the note that receives the pulse is the dotted note, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2. The pulse is this, but divided into 3. Okay, we'll go into a lot more of this in class. This is a little more confusing than the pitch stuff is, right? This top note could be 9. That'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can have that. That's like 3 pulses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3. The music, right? And I've guess what? There's 12/8 too. Possible. So it could be 12/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that is a lot like 4/4, except for the pulses organized into 3s and not 2s. So rather than 4/4 would be, 4/4 would look like 1 end, 2 end, 3 end, 4 end, right? This is 4/4 up here, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and all it changes is just is that feel of and the separation of the pulse into 3 versus 2. And then you can look in this book. It shows you what those compound meters look like down below. You'll get textbooks later, but it shows you what the 6, 16, 6, 8, 6, 4, 6, 2, 9, and 12s. The only possibility for the top number is 6, 8, or 9, 6, 9, or 12. Bottom number again could be 16, 8, 4, or 2. Okay. And then I guess I just want to say really quick to end this out that there are dots and ties, right? So in music we have dots that we can use. In simple time, if we're in 4/4, we have quarter notes that are equal to 1, half notes equal 2. We have a dotted half note, which is equal to 3. The dot simply adds half of the duration of the note onto itself. So a half note's worth 2, plus half of it is 1, so 3. We have a whole note equals 4, right? If you go small, you've got eighth notes equal a half of a beat, half of a pulse, right? 16th notes have 2 flags. They equal a quarter of a pulse, right? So there'd be 2 eighth notes per pulse, okay? And 4 16th notes per pulse, right? You can either use beams or flags, okay? And then there are all kinds of combinations of these notes together. As long as you can make up a pulse, you're good. As long as you make up one pulse, like you can combine eighth notes and 16th notes in a lot of different ways. You can have an eighth note plus 2 16ths, because help you understand that makes up one pulse, right? One enda, right? One enda. This is my pulse. Ba ba ba, or ba 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 ba, or ba ba, right? Ba 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 ba. You can do something funky like this. You can have a 16th note, an 8th note in the middle. It's kind of fun, like that. Ba ba ba, right? Ba 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 ba. And as long as it shows a pulse, it's good to go for that, right? And we'll get better at all these rhythms as we read and write. But just so you see how that works. In compound time, everything will look like it's in threes. That's all. So if I go to like 6/8, which I think is the most common compound meter, then we have a dotted quarter is 1 pulse, right? 3 8th notes put beam together is 1 pulse. You can have an 8th note with a quarter note equaling 1 pulse. Now here we don't have the beam to help us, but just know that's 3 8th notes, isn't it? So we have ba 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 ba, right? This same thing can be done backwards, right? As long as it shows 3, right? Ba 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 3 8, right? Ba 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 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3, right? So you'll see a lot of that stuff in compound time, threes and things, right? And that's pretty much it. What you can do now is there'll be some exercises you can look at. We're just gonna touch rhythm and meter briefly over the summer, and we'll get into a lot heavier. Of the 3 lectures, the meter one is the one that's probably the trickiest one to figure out, but hopefully this helps a little bit.